My name is Joe Reynolds out of LowKick MMA. Joining me today is one half of the Shelley brothers in Ryan Shelley, currently 5-0. He's got what looks to be the biggest fight to date for you so far, coming up on Cage Warriors 145. How are you feeling for that fight, bud?
Yeah, feeling very good. Obviously, with each fight that you have, each one sort of gets bigger than the one you had previously. And my opponent, Josh Reid, he's definitely the most experienced opponent I've fought to date. So it's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, and the activity during your career so far, even if we look back to your amateur career and your pro, you've been very active. This year, you've had 2 fights against 2 good prospects, one of them being Magdi Garib, which was a great performance from yourself, and then going on to the next one in the decision victory. But to get that activity so soon and already be sort of at this level competing against these sort of fighters, what's that been like for you, knowing the progression that you've made so far?
Yeah, it's been great. One thing that I love is being active. I don't like any big lags between my fights because I feel like I perform best when I'm in there actively competing. To be honest with you, I wanted 4 fights this year, that's just me being a bit greedy, I know. Look, it'll probably work out where I get the 3 this year. And, I suppose MMA-wise, that's a good year, But I was looking for the 4, but I'll just keep that momentum going into next year. I'll get the 3 this year and look to just hit it hard again next year. So, yeah, active as possible.
Yeah, and when we take a look at the Irish scene in MMA as well, it's one of the dark horses at the moment, the success on the amateur scene, at the IMAFs, the Europeans, and then at the pro level as well. So to be one of those fighters representing the Irish scene at a high level as well, what's that like, sort of knowing you're representing your country in a big sport like you are at the moment?
Yeah, I feel like the Irish scene in general this year has just, it's really back on top now again. And I feel like next year there's going to be a lot of amateurs that have been having loads of fights this year that are going to turn pro next year, and you're just going to see it explode again next year. But at the moment, like, I think we're well represented for the 4th of November. We have myself, Adam, Paul Hughes in the headliner. We have also James Sheehan and Caelan Loughran. So the Irish will be well represented on the 4th of November. So I'm looking forward to actually competing alongside all the lads and putting Irish MMA on the map,
Yeah, and then just to touch back on this fight, obviously looking at your opponent, it's the most experienced one that you've had so far, but obviously the experience you've shown in this short time period, that it doesn't really matter the experience you're able to show up every time. But what was this fight when you got it offered? What was sort of buzz around it? Was this the sort of opponent that you was looking for to get for the last fight this year?
To be honest, like, no, it wasn't, because I initially thought that Josh was a bantamweight, and then when we got offered him, and I had heard that he was moving up to featherweight, and I thought, I'd seen a lot of his fights on Cage Warriors in previous years, and he's a banger. He comes to fight and I respect that a lot. So I thought to myself, this would be a great fight up at featherweight, and it's going to be the challenge that I need now moving forward in my career. So when I heard that, I was like, absolutely, yeah, set that one up. I'm good to go for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then taking a look in terms, obviously, he's moving up to 145. You've been able to cement yourself as a top 145 fighter in Cage Warriors at the moment that's rising. How do you feel that the fight's going to go with him moving up to 145? And how do you see the fight being come to the end of it, if you have some sort of thought on what it'll look like?
I think a lot of my fights tend to go the same way. The first round, whatever happens there happens. And as the fight goes on, I sort of tend to wear my opponents and come into the fight as it goes on. This one, I'll actually be looking to start a bit quicker, because I know Josh is a fast starter. I think he's going to struggle with my range a little bit. Obviously, coming up to 145, we're a bit bigger up at this weight division. So I don't know how he's going to be able to deal with that. But, we'll see. Tune in November 4th.
Yeah, and then in terms of the matchup, stylistically, he's a very fast starter, and you gradually get quicker, or if you had to adjust your pace at the start, you're able to. So do you feel as though, sort of knowing that you're going to be able to speed up and get quicker and he might slow down a little bit, do you feel as though that'll play into your hands a little bit over the course of the 3 rounds, or are you trying to look to get the early finish? So I use this as that statement victory in the division.
Always looking for the early finish if it comes. Now, on Cage Warriors, that's easier said than done, because most of the time you're up against quite tough competition. And seeing Josh's experience, I think he's on his this will be his 20th pro fight if I have that right. So you know, he's quite seasoned and he knows what to expect going in there. So I'm not expecting an early finish, but look, if it came for me, I'd take it, no problem. But I'm expecting a tough fight, fast from the get-go, and I see me getting a late finish, either end of the second or in the third round. So.
Yeah, and then obviously you've represented Cage Warriors for some time now, in terms of obviously even Cage Warriors Academy back when you was an amateur fighter, yeah. But obviously been able to progress very quickly with the activity. But do you have sort of a goal of where you're looking to be maybe at the end of next year, or are you just sort of taking these opportunities to come along as you progress?
So at the start of this year, I signed a 5-fight contract with Cage Warriors. So I suppose we're on the third fight now of this contract. The only goal I set myself was to work my way through them five fights, take each one as it comes, and win every fight. Obviously you're trying to win every fight, but I didn't look too far ahead, as in like looking at the belt or anything like that. I'm taking each fight as it comes, and whatever happens next year happens. I feel with a good win here, that will put me in a good spot for next year, and it will have me at the top of the division. So I'll just keep doing what I always do, you know, win fights and take each fight as it comes, and sort of the rest just looks after itself. And I do believe maybe end of next year I could be fighting for that Cage Warriors title if all goes well for me. So
100%. And then to touch on that Team KF martial arts a little bit, training under Chris Fields, in terms of being able to train around those sort of people and be coached by the coaches that they have there, what has that been like as a fighter to be around such a high quality gym in Ireland?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I think, you know, KF is definitely one of the standout gyms in Ireland at the moment, amateur and pro. So just sort of training with that such high level day in, day out, it just sort of forced me to get good and get good quickly. Sort of sink or swim sort of attitude I had. I'm still not actually doing MMA all that long. I think in November I'll be training 5 years, I think it is. So I started MMA 5 years ago. Now, obviously, I had the Taekwondo kickboxing background coming in, but I remember Chris and Tom saying to me early on when I joined, they said, look, you know, if you want to be successful at this, you have to give the ground game and the wrestling, you know, the work that it needs. And I actually fell in love with it then. I love the grappling side of martial arts now and things like that. And yeah, just KF as a whole, I just love training with the lads. We have good crack too. So I think the gym's record this year, it's been silly the amount of wins we've had. I think the win rate is at close to 90%. So I hope to keep that going now coming into November. So.
And then one of the last few things from me, obviously, you've touched on the opponent a little bit and the sort of card. You mentioned some of the names to fight alongside, but in terms of this fight, are you viewing this fight as the biggest one of your career so far in terms of the magnitude behind the card, location of it, and then just in general, sort of the people that you're going to be around in terms of the Irish fighters on there? Do you see this as one of the biggest fights so far to date for you?
It probably is, yeah. Like I touched on earlier, each fight that you win, the next one is going to be bigger because each one is more important than the last. But I tend to not look into that too much in terms of, you know, the people that are going to be there, the location, the size of the card. It's probably one of the biggest Cage Warriors cards of the year, if I have that right. But again, I don't look too much into that. I just look at, you know, who's the opponent standing across me, how do I get the job done, and then moving on to the next. But that being said, I am looking forward to getting out there and fighting in the Indigo at the O2. I was there for one of my brother's amateur fights a couple of years back, and I remember the atmosphere being unbelievable because it's quite a tight little hall, but they seem to jam loads of people into it. So I think the atmosphere is going to be electric on the 4th of November. So I'm really looking forward to it.
100%. And then the final thing for myself, obviously, with each fight, more people start to hear the name Ryan Shelley more and more. But if there was one message to give to those Cage Warriors fans that still might not be too sure on who Ryan Shelley is, what can they expect to see come November time?
Just that, you know, my background is a bit different to a lot of people. So I started in Taekwondo. So I have quite a traditional martial arts background. Then I moved into kickboxing from there, and then progressed to MMA. So you tend to see in my fights, like you see snippets of the martial arts background. You see like might throw the side kick or the odd spinning attack. So I think the style I bring is quite unique. And also my submission skills on the ground are getting quite good too. So I can sort of on the feet or on the ground, dangerous everywhere. So either way, I'm looking for a finish. So that's what sets me apart from the other people.
100%. Well, that is everything from myself. If you just want to take a chance to try any sponsors, coaches, teammates, anything like that, obviously just feel free to go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, just the everyone at Team KF, you know who you are. I'd be an hour naming everybody that's helped me. My sponsors just Top 10 Martial Arts and New Age Barbershop. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks everyone, lads.
No problem. So that's everything from myself. November 4th, be ready. It's a great card. The Indigo's a great arena. Around, I'm sure they'll be bringing the heat. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.